Yo, what is up, guys? I'm bringing you a brand new video, and welcome to week number 5 of my 700 gear score series, where I try to get 700 gear score on the EU server in under 110 days. In last week's video, we managed to finish up our infinite HP potion, and we had 285 AP with 370 DP, and we also had 2.6 billion silver in liquid cash. And this week, we managed to make a lot of good progress. We gained 13 gear score, and we brought ourselves up to 289 AP with 379 DP. And the major upgrades that we got was we got a Pen Kaposia earring for the early graduation on the season. We got a Tet Tungrad ring, as well as C15 on the Offen. And then we also got our Beg's gloves from C3 all the way up to C9. And we currently have 1 billion liquid silver. So I'm going to take you guys through everything that we did this week in order to gain that 13 gear score and show you guys step by step how I did it and where I grinded and all the drops that I got along the way. So starting out, we basically went to Orcs to basically start. So this is the start of the week on Wednesday. And something that you really want to make sure that you're doing is you need to make sure that when you kill these orgs that you just flick on your Agris and then flick it off. That is something that I showed in last week's video, but it's a really, really efficient way to use your Agris because these bosses drop a lot of trash loot. And if you utilize that bit of Agris, it can be pretty good. And in this tower, we managed to get over 17k trash in 1 hour just on a blue loot scroll. So it is honestly quite efficient, and I definitely recommend it. Now, Orc seems to be one of the best spots for me right now, so I did spend a lot of time here this week. Right now, there's a lot of drop rate events that are going on. There was a 50% drop rate event, as well as the blessing thing that's going on for Wusa and Megu, as well as the Laura buff and everything like that. So we did spend a lot of time at Orcs. This was a couple of hours of Orcs. We got 1.1 bill in liquid silver. And then we ended up going on over to the Abandoned Monastery. Now, Abandoned Monastery is a little bit scary because, your bosses can get sniped, but luckily we really only had, I think, one boss out of several hours of Abandoned Monastery this week that really got sniped. And so we ended up just kind of hitting the grind pretty hard here in Abandoned Monastery, and right now I'm averaging at a rate of a little over 2 dawns per hour, which is actually really, really good. And something that I use as kind of like a little bit of a secret, or I guess, a strategy, it's not really a secret, is after you get your boss, if you just swap servers and sort of hope that there's nobody else on the next server, you might actually find an orb or two, and that'll allow you to get a few extra bosses. But overall, it's been a really good spot. We got a lot of drops for raw dawns, and then as well as the little jellies are also worth close to basically the same price as a raw dawn. It really takes like very little in materials. It's like 30 mil or something like that to turn it into a 342 million silver item. So dawns are really, really good. I've been averaging somewhere around, I'd say 850 mil per hour here. It does depend on the day. There are certain days where your bosses will get like absolutely sniped and there's just nothing but snipes that happen. But if I manage to grind in non-prime times, like in the middle of the night when people aren't really around, it's pretty much a guarantee that nobody's going to show up for the bosses. And if there is, maybe there's one person. But after we did our grind over there at Abandoned Monastery, we decided to go and check out what's going on at Bloody Monastery. Bloody Monastery I need to do in order to get the yellow shards to make cups in the future, so I kind of wanted to go test the spot out. I really wasn't doing anything, so I felt, you know what, maybe check it out, see how much money we could get here. And honestly, the money is really not that good. I thought that I would like the spot a lot more, and I remember the XP being a bit better, but honestly, the XP really wasn't that great, and the money was only really carried by the fact that we did get a couple of moon split nails. And right now, it just seems like everything is really, really cheap in terms of price. There's really not a lot of accessories that are worth a lot of money except for dawns. After we did a little Bloody Monastery, we did get involved in a node war. Now, one of the things about node wars is this node war I spent an hour at, and we didn't even win, so I didn't get the node war shop. So node war shop is not all that's, potentially what it's cracked up to be. Sometimes you do end up wasting time at the shop, and sometimes you do end up benefiting from the shop, but they are going to be changing node wars, and they're going to be making it where you can guarantee yourself to get a loot scroll for just participating. So I do look forward to that change. That is going to be very helpful, and that way there I can take essentially all advantage of having a win every time you go instead of it being RNG. So they will be even better. So if you guys aren't in a Node War guild, I do think that it's a really good way to get loot scrolls and a really good way to get money right now. And in that Node War clip, I ended up buying the Tet Tungrad ring. Essentially, that brought us up to 288 AP, and then we continued to Caphras our Offen, and we got our Offen up to C14, and we're only one level away to get it up to 289 AP. So we ended up going back to Abandoned Monastery to do a little bit of a dawn grind. At this point, it was probably like 4 in the morning in EU time. Once again, kind of got our bosses a little bit sniped here. We had a couple people that showed up, but luckily we managed to get enough damage and we saved ourselves our dawn. So really how the boss works is the team, well, it's not team, it's actually individualized. The person that does the most, the top 2 people that do the most damage guarantee a drop from the boss. So even if you do have people that show up, you can still out DPS them, or if there's just one person that shows up, you can have both of your party members, you and your party member, flag up, and that usually can secure the boss. And so generally not too much of an issue. I also made sure that every day that I was collecting my Jatina daily. At this point, I think I'm about 9 days away from getting the Pen Crescent. So that's going to be a really, really nice upgrade for me. And then pretty much just went back to Orcs in order to hit up the grind. Like I said before, with the drop rate event, Orcs is a really good spot because the money stays consistent. All of it is raw silver. I then took a little bit of a detour because I was almost ready to purchase a next little bit of Caphras in order to make my final upgrade. So I went and I turned in a bunch of the Layla's petals that I had for a whole bunch of fairies. And I also ended up getting a tier 4 fairy there. And a strategy that somebody told me about in the comments in last week's video is you want to trade in your tier 3s and your tier 4 fairies for mythical feathers because you do end up getting a little bit more silver. I did kind of know this in the past. I just totally forgot about it. But anyway, we managed to get ourselves enough money to boost our Offen all the way up to C15. And that allowed us to get that 289 bracket. So that's a brand new bracket. It's 7 AP. So now my brackets go up by 7 instead of 6. And then we ended up selling a little bit of our trash loot from our Orcs grind. We got a nice little billion silver right there. And then, of course, turned in our Jatina daily. After that, we ended up doing the dungeon. So we ended up doing the Elvia version of the Yolen dungeon for the very, very first time. I finally got enough gear where I feel like my DP is in the 370s, my AP is 289. I feel like I can actually carry and, well, maybe not necessarily carry, but participate to an adequate level to do the Elvia version. We actually failed for like an hour and 45 minutes in a previous party, and then I assembled another party another day. We tried again, and we got it in the first attempt. So we got that done. And then in the second dungeon, I ended up getting really unlucky. I ended up getting suctioned under the ground right as the boss was dying. And so I ultimately didn't get any loot for the second dungeon, despite doing it perfectly and everything was fine. But at the last 2% of HP, got sucked under the ground. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to loot the boss. So hopefully PA can fix this issue. It happens a lot when you get suctioned over top of the little, the level switcher, the 1 to 4 level switcher. So after that, unfortunately, didn't get the loot because my escape was on cooldown, but we did go and complete the first dungeon, and that one went pretty smoothly. We got that down in the first attempt, and then we opened up our boxes. Now, we ended up getting some pretty basic stuff from the first one, a Pride Crescent, and because it was our first time Elvia completion, we got 3 of these boxes from Yolu Elvia. So we got a Pride Voltara, Base Voltara, and an Ogre Ring. Really not the greatest of loot, but I guess that's how it works. Last week we got a Tribasi, this week we got nothing. But we ended up trading in our gold bars and our memory fragments, and that ended up being like 400 mil in gold bars and then 240 memory fragments. It's a pretty good payday despite that. And then we decided to go back and do a few more orcs. Now, at this time when I was doing orcs, it was really bugging me that I didn't get my Sakraya loot because I know that the dungeon is usually super worth it. So we ended up selling all of our trash and our stuff that we got from those first couple of dungeons that we did. We Caphras up our Beg's gloves, and we decided that we were going to give the dungeon another go. So we hit I think we hit C5 here on our Beg's gloves. That brings up to 372 DP, and we decided to go back to Sakrakia with a different team. And this time, no issues, got her done, didn't get sucked under the map, and ended up getting our reward box without pretty much a hitch. It did take us maybe about 35 minutes in order to do it. It does seem like dungeon number 2 is the one that does take the most amount of time. And we opened up our box and got a base Tungrad ring. So honestly, Not really that worth it. Probably shouldn't have gone back, but you know, that's what you deal with a dungeon, is a bit of RNG, but you still get the guaranteed gold bars and the memory fragments, so it's not all a waste of time. After that, went back to Orcs, hit up the grind a little bit more. As I was saying before, during the drop rate events, raw silver, nothing but raw silver, so Orcs is really good. The price stays consistent, and that allows us to buy all these Caphras stones that we're going for. We managed to get up to level 6 on the Begs, and then only needed 1,000 more in order to get it up even further. And so we went back and hit up some more Orcs grind. And honestly, I could see myself staying here at Orcs the rest of the time, because I was trying out a couple other spots like this here. I went and tried Jade Starlight on just a blue loot scroll. I did the weekly quests, or the dailies, whatever they are, and honestly made like 540 mil in an hour, or like 400 mil or something. I can't remember. It was something really, really small in comparison to the about 650, 700 that I'm making here at Orcs. I am getting a lot of good trash here because I do think that my class is quite meta here, and I also have been tuning my accuracy a little bit higher because I do miss on these mobs quite heavily. So I was making sure that I was keeping that headbutt buff up and keeping my accuracy as high as possible, and I've actually raised my trash here pretty decently. But you know, the grind for gear is not always one of glory, so it is just a lot of grinding, and it is a lot of money accumulation. But if you stay motivated, I believe that you too can get geared up real quick, and right now this is the efficient spot. And even though it doesn't have a rare drop, which I don't love that it doesn't have a rare drop, what I love about Sakraya is that there's always that big dopamine hit. You get a red shard, you get a Tungrad ring. It's really, really nice because you feel like, damn, dude, yeah, I just made 5 Tungrads in an hour or whatever. Sometimes it feels pretty good getting that done. Then we ended up selling some more trash from our Orcs grind. We grabbed our Jatina daily, and then we basically bought some more Caphras stones with the money, and we now have our gloves up to Caphras level 7. We did manage to get our gloves all the way to level 9 today, and what's nice about level 9 is when you go from 8 to 9, you do gain 2 DP. At this point, I was streaming, and I got convinced by my chat that we should go and work on the mana pot. So we ended up getting the infinite HP pot, but a lot of people are like, why don't you go for the mana pot? And so we decided, you know what, let's do the weekly here. The mana pot did get easier with the Shirkan change, or not the Shirkan change, but the Narvan step change. The gathering piece is a little bit easier. So we went to Mansions, we collected some Spectres, we collected some Narcs, and we did our weekly quest. And in the very first week, we did really well. We ended up making it up to 13 pities because we managed to collect the one free one from the adventure pass thing, and then we turned in the quest and got 5 more. So 13 or 12 in 1 hour is pretty darn good. And then from there, you know, the money at Mansions is not that good. Because we got 3 Narcs, it was not that bad, but generally it's not that good. So back to the good old-fashioned Orcs grind in order to make some good old-fashioned silver gains. Right here is another couple hours of grind. This one not quite as successful as the last. So we sold that. And of course, we've been putting all of our money through buying Caphras on the market. I'm also very patient with buying these Caphras on the market. You can get really, really caught up in buying Caphras for max price or whatever's sitting on the market, but I always put it at as low as I can and hope and wait for it to happen. But after that, we went and hit up some more Abandoned Monastery. At this point, it is Tuesday evening, the night of the maintenance, and we ended up hitting up the grind again and pretty much just collected some more Dawns. We ended up getting Dawns at a rate of around a little over 2 in an hour. For this particular session, we grinded for 3 hours together, and I got 7. My teammate ended up getting 9, so he got it at a rate of 3 in an hour. And then after that, this is Wednesday morning after the patch, and so what we did was we time-pieced over to our Megu, because there are some extra rewards for hitting certain levels on Megu, and large in part what I really wanted was the 10 loot scrolls for hitting level 60, so we time-pieced to a Megu in order to instantly collect these rewards, and then from there, we completed our season and did an early graduation, so that way there we could get the Pen Kaposia earring, and that's going to be a 2 DP upgrade for us. We also converted our Tet Tuvala Buster that we made in a previous week's video, so that way there we could trade it in with the coupon that allows you to get a Tri-Boss weapon. And that Tri-Boss weapon is going to be our Tri-Dandy that we're going to eventually C19 because it gives 12 accuracy, and it's really, really good for Succession PvP. So that's something that we're going to be using a little bit later on. So wanted to grab that. And then we grab our pen Kaposia, replace that try that we got for hitting level 63, and boom, got another 2 DP. After that, I realized that, you know what? Tunkrat accessories have kind of recovered a little bit in price. The drop rate events at this point on Wednesday, at the time of seeing this particular clip, that ended up causing Tungrats to kind of go up a bit in price. They rose by like 12 mils. So I decided, you know what? The amount of money I make in Sakraya is about the same as what I make at Orcs anyway. Let's switch it up, get that dopamine hit, and complete our daily pass, our daily quest there. And then we also got enough Caphras here in order to finish off Caphras level 9. And boom, we got a 2 DP jump because of just hitting C9. So that's really, really nice. That slot is officially done. And the next thing we're going to be working on is getting up to pen Urgons with C9 on that. I also went and I did my weekly quest here for the pity pieces here at Manchems. Ended up doing it on Arsha just for a bit of fun. Got my ass kicked quite a few times. Managed to bully a Guardian a little bit too. So it was all in good fun. And we only ended up getting 1 Narc earring this hour. So I guess that's on average 2 so far per hour, which is what I've heard it is. It's just not a bad amount of money. But essentially, that is the end of what I did this week. I'm probably going to continue to do the weekly quest, and I maybe will do it at Manchem still, but I'm also thinking maybe I should do it at Shira Ruins. I do think that Shira Ruins is probably the more efficient decision to make on going for those weeklies, because Shira is not really good money in comparison to Manchems, which is honestly kind of okay money. Like, you get some Caphras here, you do get the Narcs, you do get like 100 million trash every time you do an hour. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. But anyway, that's what we did. That's where we're at. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you guys want to catch me live on Twitch, where I stream almost all of this grind and talk with you guys and answer questions, then check me out at twitch.tv/choice. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week for a new update video. Peace, guys.